Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field couldn't be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Raising voices.
As a community member, I think we need to change in the way we act in response to violence against children. In my small way, I can be a leader in preventing violence in my community. I promise to work with my neighbors to create violence-free homes and communities for our children.
In this time of COVID, what is your promise to the children of Uganda? Because a violence-free childhood is everyone's right. Raising voices.
Patrick. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Well, good morning and good morning Uganda Extra. My name is Jagan Asemakola Zuksoka. Welcome to UBC TV. It's another lovely day this 19th of January in this year 2022. Thank you so much for joining us yet again on another very beautiful and cold morning. Just right here, a few minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock. And of course, joining me in studios this morning is Mr. Solomon Salongo Mita. And he's the spokesperson for the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development. Welcome, Mr. Muita.
Thank you so much.
I am happy to have you this morning. Good morning and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, and nice to be with you again.
Thank you. I've not met you this year. I think this is our first encounter.
This is our first encounter.
And I don't
physically, and yeah.
And I don't remember when I last saw you last year, apart from seeing you on screen on TV and everywhere making news, and that's where we are. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and of course, here is where we are today. A few months ago, when we were just getting into COVID, or when we just had COVID here, the people that were looking out to speak to us and to speak to the public were health officials, health workers, doctors, scientists, epidemiologists, naturopathies, and all people in anything called medical science and health science. They were the people that we wanted to listen to and of course to get information from. Now it is about fuel crisis in this country, and we think the best and the only options that we need to hear from should be you. And then maybe the others that will do what you are doing. But welcome, and of course, let's get to our conversation this morning of the crisis that we have in the country, which is the fuel crisis. To many political players out there, this is just a Ugandan problem and not a problem anywhere. Let's start with that.
Well, you've heard, this is not a new story because it's today is the 19th.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about a week. It's a week old. We got a disruption at the border. At the border between Uganda and Kenya, we got a bit of a disruption. It's temporary. But it came out of the COVID guidelines that were put in place because the time the president had announced that the economy was opening up coincided with the coming of a new variant of COVID called Omicron. Now, the health officials or health side of the government thought it would be risky for the country to just open even the borders with the variant in place, because we were hearing much of the variant was coming from our other countries, and the situation in Kenya particularly was not exactly good in terms of Omicron. So the decision was taken that whoever comes, they have to be tested. They get tested, we confirm that they are negative, and they come in. Now, when the truck drivers, the people bringing our goods from Kenya, by the way, we get 95% of the fuel used in Uganda through the Kenyan route. 5% comes from the Tanzanian route. So these truck drivers, dry cargo and wet.
The Tanzanian route is now Bukoba, Singida, like that, through Mutukula.
Yes.
Okay. 95% comes from Malaba, Busia.
Yeah. The reason why Tanzania is still the percentage is small. I think the route is slightly longer and
not very cost effective.
Yeah, you pay $120 per 1,000 liters through Tanzania. From Kenya, you pay $100. So there is a difference of $20 in terms of transport. So the traders or the businessmen prefer the Kenyan route because of that difference. So the truck drivers, not just fuel drivers, but all of them were a bit uncomfortable with the retesting at the border. Some of them said they had already been tested on the other side. Some of them said they didn't have the money to take another test. So that that caused a bit of commotion, and they decided to park the trucks. They parked and they caused traffic. It went into Kenya for about 75 kilometers. Traffic for about 10 days, 10 or 10 plus days.
75 kilometers is almost from here to Jinja.
Yes. The situation was bad. So it just occurred to us that the fuel trucks are caught up in that traffic. So the levels of petrol, mainly petrol, started running low in the country. And the few traders that still had a bit of petrol in their tanks started making the best out of the situation. They started hiking the prices because some of them claimed they were selling to their business, one station could buy from the neighbor. Whoever runs dry would run to the colleague, please give me some liters. I need to service my customers. And that is what caused a bit of price rise, especially in petrol. We've not run out of diesel and the other, jet fuel, diesel, kerosene, those ones we have. Okay. But petrol mainly has been the problem.
Okay, now that's very important. I also just want to know from you whether there is a way of interministerial planning or coordination or putting synergies together. For example, we look at the Ministry of Trade, we look at your Ministry of Energy, we look at the Ministry of Internal Affairs, we look at the Ministry of Health. Didn't you envisage all the things that they will actually possibly at some point injure us, and you also involve the other stakeholders? For example, there is an organization headed by a man called Chinene Byron, and I think this is called the Regional Lorry and the Regional Lorry Drivers Something Association. Do you include them when you talk about all these things to actually know how it should be done, it should be harmonized to stop a situation like the one that we are in now?
Mr. Jagenda, you know that the COVID situation has been around for at least 2 years. This was not the first time we were conducting tests at the border. We had the first, the
first wave in 2020.
The first wave, we did the tests. We went into the Delta one. We did the tests. So when Omicron came into the picture, we knew we had gone through that. We didn't imagine that there would be something so unusual. So we were all, we were all caught off guard because the planning is there, the synergies are there, cabinet sits, we get intelligence as government, but this just got us a bit unaware because if you just think of it critically, what really changed from now and before? What really changed? The testing was taking place before. The trucks were coming. We didn't have that congestion. We had it occurred a bit during the first in 2000, but it didn't affect supply. We didn't get a shortage. So this time round, it was that bad. But thank God government has intervened. There are a number of interventions taken already, and the situation is being resolved.
Drivers say during the first wave of COVID-19, testing was by government, and it was government testing all truck drivers and all those people coming to the country, especially truck drivers, when we went into lockdown. Thereafter, it now becomes individual responsibility that they now need to test themselves. The other issue is, they say in Kenya, they still get a free testing from the government, and when they come to Uganda, you need to pay some money, which I think is $30. And now that is one of the contentions. The other thing is, they say, when you're tested free of charge in Kenya, the validity of your test is 14 days. When you pay $30 in Uganda, the validity of your test is actually 7 days. Now, they're looking at where you pay a lot of money, where you actually put a sum to it and you have a short period of time, then why it's given to you gratis, you even have a longer period of time. And these are some of the things I think which are not harmonized, which have caused the drivers to say, we will just stop our ignitions, keep it there, and you see what happens, and they fold their hands.
Well, different administrations or different countries can have different ways of going about business. Even when when Omicron first came, some countries said we are closing, others said we are still open. Some countries said no flights in, others said they can come. So depending on the various dynamics under consideration, Uganda may differ a bit from Kenya and vice versa. But what we need to know is Uganda does not manufacture these test kits we are purchasing them from someone, it takes a bit of money. So also consideration whether as a country we have the resources to take care of everyone without them paying. That is a factor. So these are choices, strategic choices. But now that we've faced this crisis, you know, the thinking has changed. Last evening, the Right Honorable Prime Minister announced the decisions from Cabinet, and you know, it was resolved that the government would start footing those bills. So the truck drivers would be tested, and government will shoulder that. So it is a learning out of you know, a challenge. It came. We learned from it, and we've been able to devise a solution quickly. So we are hopeful that in a few days, the disruption will stop.
Okay. The ministry put a ceiling to how much it should cost for a liter of fuel at the pump for local consumption. And I think you put that ceiling at about 5,000. But in a liberalized economy like this of Uganda, can we actually achieve that? Where some people say, I've not experienced that before, but some people are actually saying, and then they're talking on different platforms, that you go to a petrol station and the price on their pylon is 4,980, possibly 20 shillings short of 5,000. But when you get to the pump, a Jagend or Solomon meter who is actually attending to that pump will say, now it's 4,900 on the board somewhere, but it is 6,000 physically, and you have no choice.
At the pump.
At the pump itself, and you have no choice. Can we manage
no,
that?
you have a choice. You cannot say
you don't have fuel. You don't have fuel in your car. That's
well,
what exactly,
that's a challenge, but also we probably need to plan better. You know, it's also not very, let me say, it's not very wise for you to wait for the tank to go completely empty. Because the cars we drive, yes, they have a warning system. If the car starts warning, usually a car would have about 10 liters in the reserve. Well, by the time it starts warning, you should start thinking of
the next,
you know, where is the next station? Because you cannot just drive, the car is warning you and you continue driving until it stops by itself. Then you have to push it to the next pump.
They've done that with passengers.
Yeah, I think it's even dangerous, because as you get out to push the car, a border can run over you or another car. So I think we need to also plan better, because we are in an abnormal situation right now. You cannot afford to wait for the tank to run completely dry, because it also affects you in that way. Because if you had planned better, and you get to a certain station and they are displaying 4,900, and then at the pump is 6,000, you can drive to another place. Just drive to the next place and make sure you look at the pump, you know, because the prices are displayed at the pump. Look at it and make sure it's the same, and make sure you can afford it. Because these businessmen, the oil marketing companies, are competing against each other, and you know, what's the point of competition is the price. In this Kampala, we have people selling beyond 6,000, but we also have so many stations selling below 5,000. So you need to be, you know, you need to really pay attention to some of these things and get the best out of the situation.
Okay, let's talk reserves, because everybody is saying in such a situation, the government should be now getting to the reserves to see how to supplement, to see how to help out, to see how to bail out the situation in a way. To some people, maybe our reserves are even privatized. Somebody owns them, we do not know. Do we even have the reserves? Are they depleted, or there's something in the reserves that we can run to now and say, as we are waiting to sort out the problem at the borders, in the meantime, let's start here as we solve this problem?
Mr. Jagenda, now the law puts the reserves under a government company, business arm called Uganda National Oil Company. UNOC is supposed to maintain, you know, to look after the storage tanks, maintain a certain level of stock there, but also do business, because it was created to
It's
make
a business
money.
arm.
Yeah, it's a business arm. So UNOC is not going to stock fuel and look at it for so many years. They have to trade and make money for the government while maintaining a certain level of stock in the tanks. That's what they are doing. This crisis did not spare them, because as you keep a certain level of stock, and again you have customers who want the product, they equally got caught off guard. They were selling, they knew fuel was coming, and then fuel got stuck on the way. But what we need to know is that even the storage tanks we have, the capacity is now not enough for the country. Because in the 70s, 30 million liters was something. Right now, 30 million liters can take us for probably 5 or 6 days. So what the public needs
that means
to know.
we consume up to about 6 million liters a day?
We consume 6.5 million liters on a daily basis.
6.5 million liters?
Yes.
Okay. So
government has already secured land in areas of Mpigi to put up bigger tanks, more than 10 times bigger than Jinja, 320 million liters in Mpigi. And we are going to connect it to the refinery, which is going to come up in Hoima, and there will be pipelines from Hoima to Mpigi. And yeah, in a few years to come, we should be able to have more storage, have our fuel nearby. So you don't have to drive to Mombasa to get the fuel when it's in Mpigi.
Okay.
And the quantities are going to be there. So the plans are there, things are going to be better.
how would you respond to, I don't want to call it a joke, but something very sarcastic over an oil city like Hoima without oil in it, or selling it at the most exorbitant fee in this country? How do you feel at the Ministry of Energy, for example?
Hoima is a oil city. We know that Uganda discovered commercial reserves of commercial oil that can be used for commercial purposes in those areas, and that's why Hoima is referred to as the oil city. But that oil has not yet come out of the ground. Government is doing everything possible, hand in hand with the international oil companies like Total and CNOOC, plus our own UNOC, to get the oil out of the ground. We are putting up the infrastructure, the oil wells, oil pads, flow lines, pipelines, refinery. So it's not funny that Hoima can run out of refined oil products right now, because it is also still dependent of what we are getting through Kenya, through Tanzania. And Hoima is a bit far from the borders. So it is not strange that Hoima and other places that are a bit far from the borders can run out of petroleum products quickly. Yeah, but I think what was funny was for the people in Hoima. I don't know how it came for them to just put very high prices on their to display very high prices
all of a sudden.
Yeah, almost on the first day we learned that there was a bit of a shortage, because you can't come from 4,500 and you display 9,000, 12,000. It was a bit funny, but we later understood that some of the people that were displaying those figures did not actually have fuel. They wanted to use it as a scare tactic, you know. For instead of someone branching and you have to go through the whole bit of explaining, we don't have. When they see the price,
you look at the price and just run away.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's very important. Now, the other thing is, Ndugu Solomon Muita from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. yes, we now have a crisis. There is shortage in the country. But even before then, I would still get back to the liberalization that we have. We have so many petrol stations. I live in Entebbe, and when you start from anywhere around UN in Chitoro, when you drive from Chitoro to maybe Chibuye, there are over 47 petrol stations on that road.
Indeed, we've licensed 1,300 petrol stations in this country.
1,300 petrol stations in the country?
Yeah, in different parts of the country.
In Entebbe Road alone?
Yes.
For a stretch of about 40 kilometers, there are over 40.
There is business.
There are over 40.
There is
40
big
petrol
business on that road. There are so many cars, so the businessmen, take the money where the business is.
1,300?
Yes.
Those that you've licensed?
Yes.
Across the country?
Yes.
And now the biggest challenge is when you look at these petrol stations, yes, it's a liberalized economy, and you've just revealed to us, when you come through the Malawi route, it's cheaper by $20 if you use the Tanzanian route. And you find petrol station X with the prices which are very low. And in a space of just about 1 kilometer, another petrol station has an excess 200 shillings on top of what is actually here. And these variations and the fluctuations in prices. Who manages them, and why should they be like that even when we are in a liberalized economy?
Our pump prices are determined by the forces of demand and supply in a free and fair competitive environment. So depending on the customers, each stations, they can increase by 100, by 200, or one can reduce by 150 or whatever. What I can tell you is that all the fuel will go through the border almost are the same by the time they reach the border, or by the time they drive up to their stations. They've almost incurred the same costs. All of them, because they all buy from the same source, same supplier, same fuel, same costs of transportation, costs of handling, costs of probably storage, and so on. What would change for, like we know, that Total and Shell add something into their fuel to improve it. So ordinarily, you're going to find their fuel probably slightly higher than the rest. But again, people tend to like it. I was on some media station and a caller said, in Uganda, wengula mafuta kushewe wakutotao gaba gazito. That sort of thinking, that they like it more. But the other companies, they are bigger companies, they are able to improve the quality of their fuel and probably sell it at a slightly higher price. But they also do a lot of marketing. The smaller stations don't market as much as these ones do. So even when the prices are high, people tend to continue going to their stations. That is business, really. So it could be, we could look at another product, maybe sugar. One company may package better than the other, and then they also sell a little expensively. And many people will say, I like the packaging, let me take this, even if it's 500 shillings more. Let me take that. But the sugar inside is the same. So it is really business planning, and how much profit does one decide to make off a liter. And if you charge more, how many customers are you going to get? If you charge less, probably you're targeting taxis more than the private cars. So those are business dynamics that cause that difference. However, as government, we monitor these prices, and we want to make sure that prices in Uganda remain more competitive in the region, because we don't want our prices to be so far from the neighbors, Tanzania, Rwanda, Kenya, Sudan. And luckily, we still have better prices than some parts of Kenya and Tanzania. Yet we add transportation costs, which they probably don't add as much as we do. So we are really regulating and working with our oil marketing companies in the best way that largely benefits the consumer.
When do we expect this problem to subside and to slightly get back to normal, to see that the shortages here are improved and we have some more surplus?
I want to think that within this week, that issue will have been resolved, because when we started last week on Wednesday, traffic was about 75 kilometers into Kenya. As of yesterday, it had reduced to 15 kilometers. So in the next few days, the traffic, I think, will not be there.
Okay.
So the free flow of traffic will have been restored. So I don't expect anyone to say my fuel is stuck somewhere when the route is clear.
Okay.
Ugandans are picking fuel from Eldoret and Kisumu. Those are not very far places from Uganda. The Kenyan side managed to do a pipeline up to Kisumu, Eldoret. So you can go in quickly, pick the fuel, and come back. So I don't expect anyone to... People, you know, our companies can go to Mombasa or Nairobi or Nakuru once in a while when maybe there are power issues in Kenya, which is not so common.
Okay.
So they pick the fuel from nearby, and they have no reason to say we still have a crisis when the borders are clear, when the route is clear. So in the next few days, we shall go back to normalcy, and people should be able to, the dealers should be able to reduce the prices. Ugandans should be able to enjoy. I want to say the prices we had in November, because December, you know, also comes with a bit of excitement of the festive season, so people tend to increase a little. And usually during festivities, people have money.
What did we have in November?
November, you know, pump prices were, for petrol, were not exceeding 4,500. Where you find it expensive. It was about 4,500. Some places it was slightly lower. So we want to get those prices back there.
Okay. Because
there is no reason. They still make a profit on it when they sell at 4.5. As long as the route is clear.
Okay. Is this just a Ugandan problem, or it also has got some global ramifications to it? Because some people tend to make it look like it may be just a Ugandan affair, and once the borders are cleared and the traffic is flowing through, then the problem will go away. But does it also have some global connotations to it that is affecting us?
The global issue, which started around August
last year.
Yeah, August last year, has not completely gone away, where the, you know, international oil producers, especially the crude, the crude went up a bit, still because of COVID, because production came down a bit because of the lockdowns and because of the restrictions around you know, put in place by different countries to prevent the spread of COVID-19. So, yeah, in most places, these restrictions are still there. All these companies are not operating at full capacity. So, the prices are still slightly high. You know, in Uganda, the prices came from about 4,200 for petrol to about 4,500. So that is still there, but that margin is not as big as what we have now in Uganda. So we are hoping that when we clear the borders, when the trucks are able to move freely, we should go back to that as we watch the international market. And when we are buying fuel, when we are negotiating, it happens every month. So the rates at which we buy in January may change in February. But, you know, we negotiate for the month. So we made it a monthly, negotiation or bidding process because we want to get the most competitive prices. If January is a bit high, we get to Feb, with the hope that someone will get a dealer who is slightly cheaper. And so, as we get out of this crisis, we might even get a cheaper supplier at Mombasa and Dar es Salaam. So, actually, we get from the same. For Mombasa, as East Africa, we negotiate at once for all the East African countries. So in a given month, we buy from the same source. So we are hoping that February, we can get a slightly cheaper supplier. And the prices could even slide back to what they were before July.
Okay. What is your biggest role as the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development in all this that we're talking about? Because we tend to look at quite a number of players in here. We are looking at the Minister of Finance to tell us what they're doing. And when it comes to figures and monies and inflation and et cetera, then we get to them. Then when it gets to immigration issues, then we start asking the Minister of Internal Affairs, Interior Ministry to see how to actually manage it there. Then the other day, because it now involves the Greater East Africa, then we run to Miaka also. I just want to know what the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, what's your responsibility? What are you in all this thing that we're talking about?
According to the Petroleum Supply Act 2013, the ministry regulates the petroleum sector in Uganda. The commissioner is in charge of licensing all the players. The minister will put in place a mechanism to ensure that we have stock in the country. The prices are competitive, the quality is good. So it is the mandate of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development to ensure that we have sanity in the sector. All the players are licensed. There are no smugglers. There are no, even the quality, we monitor. We have laboratories, and people, when you know that there is a station that is probably selling adulterated fuel, you come to the ministry because the lab is with us. We know the quality that comes in, and we can test and tell that this one has adulterated or not. This quality is different from the one that came in. Even Shell and Total that add in some chemicals to improve, we know what they add in, and we can test to say, this time, what is in has made it actually worse than what is So even when they improve, we are able to tell that this is improved. It's improved by that percent, which percentage. And we also have mobile laboratories. We have a physical one at the ministry, but we have also vans that can drive to a given station and do spot checks. So the ministry mandate in terms of regulating petroleum products in the country is quite wide. And of course, we partner with UNBS in terms of setting the standards, because the pump, are you getting a liter or less than a liter? That is UNBS. We have NEMA that will come and, they have to do an environmental impact assessment. We have the physical planning, the urban authorities, local authorities to regulate the design, the architectural aspects of physical planning. Is the station in the right place? Is the plan up to the required standards and so on? So, but the ministry does the biggest part in this whole matrix.
Okay, well, that's very important because I asked you that question because we are looking for who to blame to find out why don't we have enough fuel in the country? Why isn't there enough fuel in this country? But yet again, we remember that in 2007-8, when there was that post-election violence in Kenya, we still had a problem here because of the war that was there, because of the civil strife there. We still couldn't drive our cars back to Uganda to see what had happened. And the question here should be,
and the good thing is, after that crisis, Uganda has never had a shortage until now. So for 14 years after the violent Kenyan elections, we've managed to maintain stable supply. We've not had a shortage.
Because there was no problem in Kenya, or because there has not been any problem, which is of course also very good.
I believe all countries are going to ensure that there is peace in their borders. Yeah, I don't think there is a country that is planning to have that sort of strife. But it is also the reason we had to open a second route. So if we have a bit of a crisis in Kenya, at least we have the Tanzanian route at an extra $20, but it's better than nothing. We are not picking from one source. And we are also putting in place mechanisms to make sure that we have, in the next few months, we shall have a batch on the lake. It brings 1 million liters every time it makes a route. And it can make many routes.
What is that now?
It is some sort of ship. It's a big ship.
Okay. What do the batch?
Yeah, it transports only fuel. And it picks from a pipeline and feeds into a pipeline. So there is a company called Mahathi that has gotten that has a license to bring fuel into the country using batches. And they've constructed their first batch. They said they are constructing many, but the first one is doing test runs on the lake. So in the next maybe February or March, it will start operating. They've put up big tanks of 70 million liters in Entebbe, Bukasa, Entebbe. So they will be also selling. So they will shift the fuel from Kisumu, put it in Bukasa, and some people can pick from there. So some people can order through the batch. So that you avoid doing the road transport for a long distance, you pick from Entebbe. Because the same way you're picking it in Kisumu, you can still pick it in Entebbe.
So these are some of the lessons that we pick from the 2007-8 violence in Kenya, and what is actually happening now.
Yeah, because the Kenyan pipeline company has extended. They've put a pier at the lake.
Okay.
So even when there is violence in Kenya, our batch can still pick and bring, even within a within a bit of instability, unless the violence is also extending up to the lake, which is usually unlikely. It's a small area and it can be secured. We also have cargo ferries, 2 of them. They bring 1,000 liters. Every time, 2 of them. And they are working already. So those are 2 on the lake. One brings 1 million liters, one brings 1,000 liters. So they are able to make those trips.
How much fuel is ferried through these trucks?
In the trucks, on a daily, we actually bring the 6 million liters. So you have 200 trucks crossing borders every day.
Every truck has about 300 liters?
Every truck has about
3,000.
No, actually it has more. It has 30,000.
Oh, 30,000 to make 6 million. 30,000 liters, yes.
An average of 30,000. So those are coming, but we are also looking at maximizing the lake transport. But the lake transport is supposed to be cheaper by a half. A half of what you spend on the road.
Time, money, time, and all these things.
Yeah, so because it's one big thing coming at once, probably it uses less diesel and it
manpower
is,
and
yeah,
everything.
yeah. So
Okay.
it's offloading through a pipeline. It comes, it docks, you just connect, and the tanks are filled.
Load into there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it goes back.
Well, thank you. Finally, in just 1 minute, Mr. Solomon Mwita from the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, your final remarks, your parting shots, and of course, what the public needs to go with in as far as the fuel crisis is concerned in this country.
This is an appeal to the oil marketing companies. These are your customers. You need them. You need them for your business to thrive, you know, because you're not going to play around with the same customer. If you have a customer base used to your station, maintain them. If you scare them with your 10,000, 7,000, they might, you know, it may stick in their heads, and probably they will find another station that sells cheaply, and they will start bypassing you. Even when the situation normalizes, they will say, those people. So you want to keep the most reasonable price on your pump, you know, so that you keep your people and get more. And you know, when everything settles, you probably are going to make more money from even the new customers you're going to attract. And to the people out there, if you see the prices you can't afford, please continue driving until you find the price that you can afford for to fill your tank.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Solomon Mwita, the spokesperson of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development, for having allowed to join us on Good Morning Uganda this morning, and of course for sharing with us a few of these insights on what is happening in as far as the fuel shortage is in this country. And hopefully, like you said, in a few days, we expect and hope that there will be some, not enough, but there will be some good fuel into the country, which will help us move on. We stop it here for tonight, and of course for this particular morning, wishing all the best for God and my country. We'll return tomorrow. My name is Uganda Semakola Ziksoka. Good morning and bye for today.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Patriotism is a feeling of love, devotion, and the willingness to sacrifice for one's country.
I say no to corruption because I put my country first. I choose peace over violence because I put my country first.
I love Uganda. I serve Uganda. I sacrifice for Uganda. I'm loyal to Uganda. I love myself.
Be patriotic. Uganda first. This message is brought to you by the National Secretariat for Patriotism Co Uganda, Office of the President.
Mohammed